Welcome to PolyCast, an official podcast of Polton Civilization site.
Daniel Quick,
Makahlua,
Imran Sidiqui,
Cartimandua,
with guest co-hosts
Alexander,
Solver. Dan is quite possibly the most masochistic person ever. He runs this show where he just gets ridiculed every episode.
Good point.
So let's laugh at him some more. Alright, welcome to the 73rd episode of PolyCast. Today we have the producer and owner of this show, Daniel Quick.
I'm still here.
Imran Sidiqui.
Hello.
Cartimandua.
greetings.
Makahlua.
still looking for caffeine.
Alexander.
hi.
And myself, Solver.
Say hi, Solver.
Hi.
Alright, so now that one guest co-host has done the introduction,
Can I go now?
Forum Talk.
Mackie
I'll
would.
do it. Oh, Mackie.
What? Volunteering me again. So in Forum Talk, we talked about the 3 missing leader trait combos and why they may or may not be overpowered. And we tried to do a redo of our top 10 tips to get started on Civ, but we kind of, got off on a tangent.
It happens.
I thought this entire episode was a tangent.
Well, more tangenty than usual.
Tangenty.
In the first Vault patch, units with the greatest experience points in Civilization 4 and should resources be more valuable.
In the research lab, we discussed an idea for Civ combat on a Heroes of Might and Magic-like chess-like board. Then we discussed including ammunition into the game. And thirdly, we discussed introducing animals.
In the second pair from the Vault on 2 lists, the top 10 games that teach you something and the 100 best games to play today.
So in the Senate, we talked about playing on a team.
And how we all wish we had friends.
Aww.
It's true.
This is Forum Talk, where we investigate hot Civ issues in the forums.
Civer. Or no, wait. Civer. There's 3 V's in there. So he was saying it was this point we realized the trait combo doesn't exist of creative and charismatic. In fact, there are 3 trait combos that don't exist in the game at all. Creative, charismatic, industrious, philosophical, and protective organized. And he's wondering, do you think they were left out because they didn't want to add 3 more leaders? Or was it overpowering-ish?
I can't remember. Somebody had one of those combinations in Vanilla Civ, and after watching players play with it, they said, I think we need to do something about this.
That was industrious.
Yeah, they nerfed it.
Industrious philosophical, they nerfed.
Yes, they nerfed by... If someone had that combination, then it's now totally excluded.
Yes. Well, yes.
That was the ultimate nerf.
It's interesting that, is it DMOC, or however he says his acronym, suggests those 2 particular leaders for inclusion. Emperor Meiji for Japan and El Cid for Spain. Because, in actuality, those 2 are included in my version of Beyond the Sword. It's quite interesting, modding them into the game. But yeah, they are available online, and you can mod them in with those traits.
The philosophical Industrious here. With Industrious, wonder production increased 50%, double production speed of Forge. Philosophical Great People birth rate increased 100%, double production speed of University. But it's the first 2 points, the wonder production increase and the great birth rate increase, that really, as a combination, is quite overpowered. I think that was the one that was specifically excluded for that reason. Some people have argued in the past, not just recently, give them a poor unique unit and or unique building. But the unique unit certainly has a window of opportunity, whereas with the traits we're talking about for the entire game.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not going to slow them down. If they can build forges, they can put out their units a lot faster. Once they hit education and they get universities, they're going to start teching a lot faster. It's not going to slow them down that much to give them a bad building and a bad unit.
As for the other 2 that were mentioned in here by CivIV, Creative Charismatic and Protective Organized, I don't think either of those would be overpowered. As has been pointed out before, and on the show we've discussed how there are many civilizations that just have one leader. I'm sure we could come up with a couple of others that could have those combinations, and it could be added to the game. Nerfing industrious and or philosophical in order to have that combination would be a bad idea because, well, pardon the profanity, but balancing is a bit as it is. And if you go and mess with that, then you're just going to create a whole bunch of other problems, kind of like a 1 step forward, 10 steps back sort of situation. This was last discussed, a related discussion, back in episode 10 in March of 2007, before Beyond the Sword was released. And then the philosophical and industrious combination was noted as being missing still, as was aggressive, charismatic, and financial organized. And there were quite a few people that argued against aggressive, charismatic, and financial organized. Well, with Beyond the Sword, Boudica of the Celts took aggressive, charismatic, and Darius I of Persia got financial organized. Both of them introduced in Beyond the Sword, and I don't recall ever seeing any discussion saying that Boudica or Darius I is overpowered in practice.
Yeah, there was a ton of that, but it all stopped when the game got actually released. Although people would blame this aggressive charismatic combination before the release. I remember some people actually not believing that they did include a leader with such a combination after all.
So I suppose those people who argue that philosophical industrious, and I have seen this, they said, hey, there are mods out there that have done that. It's not so overpowered. Some people argue that it's really accentuated on the lower difficulty levels, but anything above Emperor, it's not. And perhaps it's not as overpowered, but I still think it would be overpowered. You could make the argument, well, you'd be crazy to be trying to rack up the wonders in the higher difficulty levels because you're just even a bigger lunch than you already were at those difficulty levels.
Yeah, but when you say anything higher than Emperor, you should remember that it's a very, very small subset of players that actually play at that level. It's not even the hardcore Civers, it's the most hardcore among the hardcore.
The most masochistic of Civ players.
Yeah, yes.
And that as well.
Yes.
But instead of just removing the trait combination altogether, they could have just, I don't know, given the AI really, really stupid subroutines, or however you put it. Just make it do really stupid things. Like, it's industrial, philosophical, but he's doing warrior spam in the modern era. Compensate for the overwhelming goodness of the trait synergy with ridiculous behavior on behalf of the computer.
People hate it when the AI does stupid things.
I know.
The developers would probably get lynched by the testers because there's large amount of testers that scream bloody murder every time there's a suggestion to include routines that have deliberate stupid behavior. Because either way, there's always stupid behavior. You don't have to make it deliberate.
Oh, of course.
Redux top 10 tips to get started in Civ 4. I realized that this was discussed on episode 15, which I was not on, which means I haven't got to say all that I want to say on it. And I was like, I must correct this injustice immediately.
Oh, good grief. I mean, sorry.
Because that was episode was with Locutus and Mackie and Impaler WRG, who is a Modcast regular now and is still PolyCast's most frequent guest co-host.
Poor man.
Looking for top 10 tips to get started in Civ 4. And tip number 1.
Don't buy Civ, get a light.
Well, let's assume that you've made the mistake of purchasing the game and you can no longer return it because you've opened it and or it's past the time that you could return it.
Trust us, break the disc now before it eats your life.
If you need some more metal in your diet after you break it, you can mix it in with some yogurt or something, or some porridge.
You can also melt it in the microwave and make a neat coaster.
Tip number 2, make sure your game is installed correctly. That's a good way to play Civ, is to actually have it installed, you see.
Don't talk anymore.
Wow. Cartimandua has never said anything like that to me.
You're not married to her.
In all seriousness, when it comes to improvements in the game, don't ignore cottages. If you do, you will wonder why you're not able to progress up the higher difficulty levels. Always escort your settlers with at least one military unit, as Llamacat said in a thread that was actually discussed in episode 15. Another suggestion, probably most people wouldn't even think about this as a top 10 tip, but don't just play single player. Find some people to play multiplayer with. You go into the forums, you find some people that you believe, at least based on what they've said, are interested in Civ in a similar fashion to you. You think that you have a comparable play style, comparable personality. I really don't recommend going to the GameSpy lobby to find people to play with. I can't in good conscience recommend that.
Wait, what you're saying is in that number basically comes down to, if I can summarize, get some friends.
This is a vault segment with topics cut from earlier episodes, but I found relevance again later. From episode 49 with DanQ, Makahlua, Cartimandua, Oz, and Kale.
I made a thread because I was so proud of my unit that I had. It was called Brag Your Highest XP Units. Basically, I had a Phalanx, and I have an issue here with these as well, really quick. Basically, he had almost 20, he had 19 experience points, all 5 combat promotions, and I thought that was pretty impressive for me. He lived that long. And then basically I made a screenshot, posted the thread, and I was interested to see units that had survived the wars. I wanted to see people's strategies for experience. And then I didn't think the thread would get this big. And the main theme of the thread seemed to be great generals and the applications of it. And later on in the thread, it turned into be how effective gunship units were combined with a great general because they have so many attacks, especially attacking weaker units. And we even have a person here who had like experience of 120-something gunship unit. And it's just amazing. I would have never even imagined that possible. And on my OP, the Persians kicked my butt with war elephants, so that's why I didn't post anymore.
There was Sir Og with a modern armor at 321, Diadem with a 591 XP gunship.
Yeah.
And then if I thought it couldn't get any more insane, Solemnwe has a light cavalry with 1,255.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
But yeah, some people are crying foul with World Builder.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was possible.
I've never had anything close to that, so I think they cheated.
I mean, I know promotions are unlimited. You can have unlimited promotions, but I figured 1,255, I didn't think that was practically possible.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I think he tried to verify his stance on basically his strategies, what he did with great generals and gunships, and that you can cheap out, attacking weakened units and stuff like that. But, you'd have to seriously focus the whole game on that one unit so he doesn't get killed. I think Solemnwe was playing on the Napoleonic Europe mod.
Yes.
I've never played that mod. In fact, in my OP, I have Kale here. I said no Fall from Heaven because I've had units in Fall from Heaven where just sitting in cities fortified and just barbs flying at me and my XP skyrockets. Even then, I don't think I could beat the 1,000.
Yeah, I've never seen it that high, even with Fall from Heaven, but I did think that was pretty funny. There's a disclaimer against the mod right in the first post. Hey!
From episode 71 with DanQ, Makahlua, Peach Rocks, the DS, and the Me and Team.
Should be the resources be more valuable. I think that the way the topic went wasn't quite what I had in mind, because I was thinking, should resources be more valuable in terms of tile yield? I think it's a bit ridiculous how, in some cases, some resources actually generate a good deal less than what a normal improvement would, like dye on a river tile versus a cottage. I think that some resources should yield a good deal more than what they do, but
yeah, that ties a little bit into our topic from last episode about extra tiles of dye or silk or whatever, and do you put a cottage on them or do you put a plantation on them?
I would say really rare is the time where you wouldn't want the improvement that allows you access to the resource. I actually disagree with the opening post here. I think resources in this game, other than their yields, of course, are extremely valuable.
yeah, I agree with that.
Happiness resources in the early game, that's a difference of working, say, 5 pop cities or 4 or 5 pop cities or 8 or 9 pop cities in the early game before you have access to monarchy. If you get some early happiness resources, that can completely change the complexity of the game. That's the difference between me expanding to, say, 6 to 8 cities by 1 AD, or maybe even 12 if I get enough luxury resources. That's a big deal. You can be a lot more aggressive blocking off city land then. And also, once you have access to the resources, you can start trading it for more to raise your caps even more so you can build less units, or even more importantly, the health cap, you can hike that up and really grow your cities. And then on top of all that, if you have excess resources, start selling them for gold and kicking the slider. It's ridiculous. If you have enough land, just how much you can use the resources for in the current state. I would actually worry a little bit about making them stronger. Because if they were like 10 commerce yield or something, then the civilizations that started with them would have such an overwhelming advantage over the ones that didn't. It would be difficult to make that up.
Yeah, to a point. You've got some resources like gold mines and gem mines, which are ridiculously overpowered. And then you've got some rubbishy ones like dye. Not only have the drawback can't be worked until calendar, it might even be in the jungle, but they generate rubbish in comparison to some resources. It's like, it isn't really fair.
I'm not sold on that. They did a comparison, this is sort of relevant, between Colossus coast tiles and cottages. Even with just Colossus coast tiles, it took like hundreds of turns before a non-Riverside cottage caught up to the Colossus coast tile, which meant that the Colossus coast tile was far superior in work. And even a guy who's really known for spamming cottages or whatever, Dave MCW, would put Colossus coast greater than non-Riverside cottage. Well, now here you have a tile that's markedly better than Colossus coast, the Riverside dye or even not Riverside dye. That's also giving you the ability with the theater to increase your happiness cap by 2 in any city where you want that.
Oh.
That's pretty huge.
Well, yeah, but
by the time you grow a cottage that you would place on that tile to a town, your break even is being at like turn 300 something.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're assuming that the dye replaces something else that you could have been using the entire time, like gems is a pretty unfair one. Let me think of something a little fairer. Like ivory, for example. We'll ignore the elephants. I think the yields for those are not particularly great.
You can get them in the late BCs, though. Trade in the calendar.
You can get them, but still, you're going to be denied other resources that you could have got instead for that period. And I feel that getting calendar resources in Big Fat Cross starting with is kind of a disadvantage because it denies you from other resources you could have potentially got.
I don't like them in the capital.
Exactly. I'm talking capital and early cities here. I just think they've just got a few too many disadvantages compared to the other resources. But I'm an obsessive balancer. I work on the fan patch for Age of Empires 3, which is all about balancing the game. That's what came to mind to me when I looked at that topic. The resources should be more valuable, but not in the sense the topic first had. They are valuable enough in that sense.
Onion's solid there, saying they should be more valuable in the sense that, oh, sure, you might go over to war over your strategic resources, but over your luxury resources, no. Like the gold lying around your borders and think, oh, that's nice. The commerce boost is nice in the mid-game, but villages and towns could be just as good, if not better, and can be built anywhere. The same goes for pretty much any non-strategic resource. And then he later says, I'm not exactly sure how this could be changed, but I have some ideas, such as owning multiple resources need to provide some benefit, though not as great as owning several different ones, quote unquote. And I'm thinking as some other people in the thread have pointed out, and we talked about before, well, if you have excess resources, let's talk about luxury resources here. I'm not too keen on giving away strategic resources to people who don't have them, even for some gold per turn. Luxury resources, giving them away can give you some nice gold per turn. But I'm also thinking just having multiple luxury resources. Talked about the happiness cap, for instance. I have found, as I've moved up the difficulty level, for instance, I'm staying more in hereditary rule before going on to representation because in some games I just don't have the luxury resources to help with the happiness cap. And if I switch away from hereditary rule into representation, which I'd like for the science benefit, and yeah, there is some happiness benefit for my largest cities, but man, oh man, without that balance of the luxury resources, I got to keep some military units in there, and the military units aren't going to have that benefit anymore for the happiness if I switch to representation. So, to me, I don't think resources need to be more valuable. Perhaps if you're concerned about maybe the AI not declaring war on you to go after for these resources, thinking about their own happiness caps or even the health issues, then maybe make it so that the AI is more likely to go to war with you over those. Maybe that's what would make them more valuable, rather than some other points that were being made here.
That's a good point. There's actually something in the code that Dan F. pointed out that the AI can prioritize, like favor a war target one over the other once it rolls acceptable war based on resources, but that no resources are currently defined under that. But I guess there's something in the code for that already, where you had oil or iron or something, and you want to define it so that the AI would favor somebody who has those resources over somebody who doesn't. It's actually possible to do, from what I can tell. That is something that you could look at. But it's so easy to lock the AI from being able to declare on you, either using disposition or getting them to hate something else more. It's kind of hard unless you change the war mechanics completely.
Charles Lee has suggested make colonies or outposts to capture specific resources. Colonies have a max of X pop and X culture, but get less maintenance, connects those annoying tundra middle of the sea resources, and are allowed to be built closer than cities, quote unquote. I know we had talked before on the show about bringing back colonies from Civ 3, about, yes, I'd like to be able to have that resource, but I don't want the expense of having a city there, and especially far-flung ones now that we've got maintenance concern. But colonies having a max of X pop and X culture, that part I'm just kind of like, no, but just bring back colonies like back in Civ 3. And if you really want that, you're not just going to build the colony or the outpost, whatever word we want to use for it. You're going to defend that. And yes, you need to have that connected. So I'd be fine with that, although I don't necessarily think of bringing back colonies to make resources more valuable. I'm just thinking them to make them more accessible, particularly earlier on in the game. Arjit NYX talks about, you see in history books about trade routes. Pirates, privateers, and U-boats were all initially used to intercept ships carrying resources. In Civ 3 and Civ 4, you acquire a resource, you automatically get it. There is no wait for supplies, and there is no danger of losing them. I definitely disagree on the last part about there is no danger of losing them.
Oh, yes.
I kind of disagreed with that, too.
If there's no land route, you can block off some cities' access to resources. Like, say somebody settles some iron across the world on, like, a little island somewhere because they don't have it. If you blockade that city, they don't get iron anywhere else. So there is the option to do that there. And you can also definitely sever trade network connections to resources to prevent them to get it, or just buy bomb the resources, or anything you want. I think even 3.19 makes the AIs more likely to cruise missile your resources. That should be delightful.
Yeah. I went and actually posted in that thread kind of a response to that, and I said, it's just fine with the generalized routes that they can be blockaded by the naval blockades, privateer blockades, and you can send troops in to cut roads. Why are you so ready and eager to have all this extra grief when you're too lazy to use the tools you've already been provided?
Hear, hear.
Yeah, Civ is a great game about taking it as you want. The number of different interpretations people have of Civ is quite huge, I imagine. If you want to interpret it in a certain way, you can. It's just some people might choose not to see it that way. I don't know.
And then, as I know we've also talked about on the show before with regards to resources, and it comes up in this thread from Exile, making resources quite finite with depletion. Well, he says, after depletion, another square in the vicinity will emerge with the same resource or a newer resource will replace the old. And I'm thinking, okay, that's an idea about the resource depletion here, but if you're saying, well, after depletion, another square in the vicinity will emerge with the same or newer resource, it's like, oh, I see that my resource of iron is exhausted on that tile. Oh, but look at that. I found another one on another tile right beside it. To me, if you're going to go the depletion route, saying that another square will just emerge with the same resource or another one, and it seems like right away, I'm just kind of like, well, that's not particularly interesting.
Well, they did do something similar to that in Civ 3, where a resource would disappear every now and then, and it would reappear somewhere else, not necessarily in your territory either. So I think that's what he's asking for, is to bring back that feature.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, is that really fun?
In my opinion, no.
No, I agree, no.
Come on into the research lab where we explore concepts that are not in Civ yet, but maybe in the future.
New idea for combat on chess-like board.
I think they did that. Wasn't it called Call to Power? Didn't they have a little board for the fighting the battles that would pop up?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
No, that was merely a visual representation. You actually had no control. Call to Power 2 added an option to retreat, but that was it.
Oh, that sounds lame.
Moshe Levy was in your day for Civ 5, making a somewhat of a Heroes of Might and Magic type of combat, like on the chess-like board, where you can move your units and kind of fight in depth, like a Heroes of Might and Magic thing.
Did you play that game, Imran?
Heroes of Might and Magic? I've done so a few times. I don't think it'd work with Civ. because games would take absolutely forever.
Like they do in Heroes of Might and Magic.
So Civ has a lot more stuff to do outside of combat than Heroes of Might and Magic.
Also, Civ doesn't have all of the magic that can do a little bit of a quick kill on enemy units. So you just be whacking away, hitting them again and again.
What? 99% and I died?
Yeah, that never happens in Civ.
It was a good idea, but a better idea might be not to do it.
Maybe you can have the spearman jump on the tank after the combat, you know.
Cool animation at the end.
Yeah, this is for a more tactical-based game.
Yeah. It's like, hey, our game took 50 hours in a row. This would suck royally.
Every time you had a little skirmish between, a couple of spearman units, it'd take like 15 minutes to get through.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes, okay. Works great in Heroes of Might and Magic. Civ has combat too. Combined together, worst idea ever.
Civilization of Might and Magic.
Yeah, not good. I mean, now a zoom in while the units fight on a quicker pace, that's a bit different because, you can watch and if things are going badly, you can hit retreat and that's about it. But, to have every little unit plan an attack for it, like what the hell, people? Don't you people think about these things before you suggest these ideas? Apparently not.
I know, and then after he gets wiped into the ground by every person's comment, bashing him. Haven't you played it? It's awesome. It's so cool. What are you on?
They hate the idea, not the person.
I think a better idea would just be to include a few more little tactical features into the game rather than creating an entirely new tactical game to try to wade through.
But if you make the combat more tactical, you should reduce the overall amount of units. Like in Beyond the Sword armies with 150 units fighting each other, then tactics will make it far, far too time-consuming.
Well, I definitely agree with that. I've always thought that Civ needs to have a more army-like feature.
Like, I have 2 tanks, you have 1 tank, and that's it.
Well, and they could represent an entire battalion of tanks rather than a single tank. It never made sense to me that you had to build every individual piece of material for your entire military by hand. Maybe they are supposed to represent regiments or something, but I think it could be more streamlined.
At the risk of mentioning CivRev, much to Solver's dismay, like in CivRev, when you can have 3 units and they can form an army.
Then I can still leave.
Well, you could form armies in Civ 3 and Civ 4 as well, but not as often. You had to have a great general.
Ammunition idea from CivMan33. Seems more realistic if they put ammo into the game for Civ 5. The ammo feature could be turned on and off, or put in higher difficulties. Gunpowder, tank, archery, flight, and naval units could require ammo for attacks, or else they'd have to charge at the defender. Thus, the attacker's strength would be reduced by half attack combat odds. Ammo could be purchased for 5 gold for the earliest range unit and 50 gold for the latest tank modern armor. Ranged units will carry a maximum of 10 bullets.
Do you remember what I said about, the last topic? This is not as bad as that last suggestion, but it's not too far away. Seriously?
Do you crave more micromanagement? Because that's what's going to happen.
Apparently they do.
If you didn't like this idea, then how about Hale, who says, I like the idea, but I think that ammunition should be introduced together with quantifiable resources concept.
Oh, no, not that again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, why don't we do quantifiable resources? And why don't we also make it so that you have to dress each of your soldiers personally when they get up every day?
That's great. For the ladies... For the ladies, we have dress up. What?
G.I. Barbie.
Minus 10% in combat. Your unit's dress shirt and pants don't match.
Plus 5%, your enemy is confused by this faux pas.
I'll see, that'd actually be awesome, but...
This actually sounds like, instead of doing Heroes of Might and Magic, this is now The Sims-ilization.
Similization?
Similization. Similization 5.
All of your soldiers start dancing if you don't click on each of them individually to give them permission to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's a horrible mental image.
Gosh, I hate that game.
Oh, it's the worst game ever.
Talk about a stupid AI. Gosh.
Yeah, every single one. All the time.
Every episode needs Sims criticism.
It's our new feature.
Sweet.
Criticize The Sims?
Criticize other games that aren't Civ.
Ooh, I like this.
That sounds like a perfect new segment. Why Civ is better than Quantity X.
In all seriousness, I think Tuber753 phrased it the best, but I was thinking along the same lines as well, that when it comes to ammunition, this is well represented already in unit maintenance.
There you go. Good job.
I agree.
By the way, we're going to get criticized again, as we used to. We're all negative about all these ideas. We're too mean.
Yeah, but these are stupid ideas, so...
It's just because we haven't run across ideas that are our cup of tea. That's the other thing.
You're saying we're doing them a service?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. I can get behind that.
Wait a minute. If we kept picking ideas that we like, though, we'd be like, I agree, okay.
Yeah, so...
Nobody wants to listen to that.
Yeah, but on these ones, we're all like, yeah, I agree, that sucked. I agree, too, that was horrible.
Let's talk about introducing animals.
Introducing animals. Hi, lion. This is dog. Dog, this is lion.
Somehow a segue.
Hello, tiger. This is bear.
Mago Barca said, wouldn't it be great if you could send animals to another continent or breed them in your own continent for cost of 100 gold or even you that as a slider? That's a direct quote. We're getting kind of the general idea here.
Breed them. Nice. Can we get an animation for that, too?
No.
This sounds like a Sims expansion pack.
I suppose you could argue that this would introduce an element of realism.
Oh, yeah, we don't like realism.
I really don't see how that would be fun.
Well, it's too much realism, again. It's too much micromanagement, I think. Because it'll become Civilization 4 Animal Crossing or something.
Animal Crossing.
Civilization 4 Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom.
Let's see, Civ My Way said that he's working on a Civ variant where animals which can move around and have to be captured. He said that in addition to this, there will be a number of exotic animals. Capturing these will be harder, and they will allow for the creation of circus in Renaissance times and further a zoo in modern times. If you're going to add something like that, maybe that had like a circus and a zoo as a building, although I don't really think we need any more buildings.
Lame.
You don't have to hold back, Imran. You can say what you really mean.
Well, he's saying that he's working on it so the animals will move around and you have to catch them. I just have this awful visual of, like, these stupid little workers chasing the sheep around in circles and never being able to catch them. That is a great way to waste time.
Isn't that not already represented in the game by, say, pastures? I mean, you have captured them to the point that you're able to actually make use of them now on that particular tile that they happen to be on.
But Dan, we have to introduce, like, ridiculous micromanagement. Because apparently that's in now.
Because otherwise the fun's not in it.
Because everybody knows micromanagement is the most fun part of the game.
And it's more realistic.
Oh, yes.
This is a vault segment with topics cut from earlier episodes, but I found relevance again later. From the first pilot with DanQ, Locutus, and Makahlua. The September edition of PC Gamer 2006 compiled a list of the top 100 games of all time. Civilization 4 is at number 6, and The Elder Scrolls Oblivion is placed at number 1, and we're going to combine that with, it's better, the IGN article. I'm going to go on about the IGN article. IGN recently listed the top 10 games that teach you something. Civilization 4 is on the list at number 3. I'm going to try to hold back a little bit on the IGN, because if I start, I might not stop.
Yeah. You and me both.
Deep inhale, breath. Did you notice that it's specifically Civilization 4 that's given the ranking, whereas it's the whole Where in the World or Where is Carmen Sandiego series that's given its position?
I don't think that's too important. The way they make these lists, they just sit in a room, they throw out a bunch of titles that they think might be kind of nice, and they make a top 10 out of it. It's not like they do weeks and weeks of research.
What?
They just
No!
Yeah.
Don't shatter my illusions!
But
Oh,
no, but
sorry,
there's
Dan.
a lot of people who, even in their staff, who would have said Civ 4, probably also played the earlier games too.
They recently played Civ 4, that was in their heads, so
Yes.
it became Civ 4.
Kind of a cumulative vote, so to speak.
Yeah, I think Civ 3 and everything is included in that implicit.
Maybe, but you guys can't tell me. And if you can, I would be very happy because I would love to know why IGN made the Resident Evil series number 2 of games that can teach you something. What?
I have no
I
clue.
went, what?
Teach you how to survive zombie attacks? Or
Yeah, because that does happen a lot.
They have a top 10 like this every week, and the week before it was the top 10 of games with zombies, so maybe it was a leftover from the week before.
From episode 65 with DanQ, Makahlua, Imran Sidiqui, Provost Harrison, Vitlish, and Dojo Boy. On Edge Online, the 100 best games to play today. And yes, it's another games top list, but they talked about games to play today, and you could say that any top 100 list really kind of implies that if it's like the top 100 best games. They're talking about games that endure, so some of them go way, way, way back, not even just recent games, because I find a lot of top games lists include games that are relatively recent, like in the last 10, 15 years. They don't actually go back. And on this list, Civilization 4 was number 19. They said that though the quickfire stripped-down CivRev intelligently brought Civilization into sharp focus for a new audience, it's 4 that we keep going back to.
Yep. To further go into the point you said where they will go back to older games, right after that, number 20, Super Mario Bros. 3. It's like, what, over 20 years old now or something like that?
Yeah. I made note of who was higher on the list than Civ 4. 18, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. World of Warcraft.
I don't see how Rock Band 2 is ahead of Civ 4.
Have you played Rock Band?
Not Rock Band, but some of the offshoot ones, I guess.
It's probably the best party game out there. That's one thing.
Well, yeah, then I guess we're looking at a different experience on the single player, the solitude of Civ 4.
There is a difference there. If you're talking about single player, it probably isn't. But if you have a bunch of people and you're all playing different stuff, I mean...
Rock Band was 50. Number 16 was Super Metroid.
Super Metroid.
Street Fighter 4 at number 14. Left 4 Dead number 13. Grand Theft Auto 4 number 12. I can see why they placed that there. Little Big Planet at number 11. Oh, come on.
I don't know anybody who plays this.
My nephew does. He's 11.
Well, yeah, I mean, just because it's a kid's game, though.
Yeah, this is a pan-gamer list. This is not just for us elite people. It's also for the teeming masses.
This is for everybody.
That's right, and as Mackie says, because we are elite people, we can pass judgment on everybody else.
No, we cannot.
Yes, we can!
No.
Yes!
Well, that's the story of my life.
Yoshi's Island at number 10. Halo 3 at number 9. Okay, I see why that's on the list. Super Mario Galaxy. I don't know if I put that Super Mario game up there, but...
Well, if you go back and look at the list, a lot of the other Super Marios are in there, so...
Yeah, they really like Super Marios.
Yeah, they do.
My sons love that game.
Well, we'll say, I mean, it probably is interesting to play like a Super Mario 3D game with the Wii controls.
Which is what they play it on, yeah.
Number 7 is Tetris. I have no qualm with that whatsoever.
Gotta be Tetris.
Excellent.
Super Mario World at number 6. Oh, yes, okay.
There we go.
Super Mario World's awesome.
The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think we can tell that Dan doesn't play consoles at all, if ever.
No, I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a console gamer myself, so some of these are like, I've heard of it, but I haven't got a clue what they are.
Resident Evil 4 at number 4. Number 3, number 2, number 1. Okay, I've got no issue. Half-Life 2, Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Welcome to the Senate, where we discuss game strategy.
Playing on a team, it is possible in the game setup that you could play on a team, and not only with another human player, but also with the AI. I've never actually tried it with the AI. But by using this means, you can share research, technological research, and in fact, if you don't, you get a considerable penalty, so you want to do that. But as was said in earlier episodes, you can see, for instance, right from the game, okay, where's your starting location? I can see that. You settled there. How come you settled there? You're able to see more parts of the map more quickly than you otherwise would. You can see what people are building in their cities, so you can passively watch someone. There doesn't even have to be a lot of conversation. You can just see how they play their end of the game. It's a good way to learn, to see where you're going wrong, and it can be difficult sometimes to describe your games and to get other people into it, as people on PolyCast well know by listening to theater segments or trying not to. And so this way you get kind of a first-hand experience and in seeing the game, seeing someone's game unfold, and you're there as well, and you can have a direct impact on it.
Isn't it nice being part of someone else's life?
Well, that feature is also available with Permanent Alliance, but I really don't think it works very well with an AI. I mean, it just means you have a pet AI that does your bidding, because inevitably you're going to do better than they do.
Hopefully.
Pet, eh? So there's another animal that you can introduce into the game, your pet AI.
Well, even when you have a human partner, one of them tends to be the dominant player, and the other one is like the pet that does the bidding. Unless you get two strong personalities together.
What kind of people you play with?
You don't want to know.
Who do I play most often with in hot seat games? Who am I sharing a computer with currently?
It is possible when you're playing on a team to have more than just two people on a team. I've never actually tried that before. That might be a little bit too much to try to manage.
New challenge for you, Dan. Play as a team with all the players. No war.
We're all on teams.
No war. All on the same team. The Peacenik game. And you just get to build everything together.
And still manage to lose.
And still manage to lose, yes.
Calling today. In North America, the number is 301-637-7659.
That's 301-637-POLY.
In Europe, 44-121-288-7659.
That's 44-121-288-POLY.
You can Skype us at the PolyCast.
Or email us at thepolycast@gmail.com.
The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
For more information on PolyCast,
our sibling shows Modcast and Revcast,
or about PolyCast in general,
log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net.
Well, coupling such strong medication with the playing of Civ is very dangerous. It can lead to a potential overdose. They have.
An overdose of Civ?
No, if you couple Civ with any other drug.
Okay, don't talk.
We're back where we started.
Both of our guests this week were returning guest co-hosts. So, Solver, Alexander, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not so much and 10 being a lot, how much do you regret coming back?
I regret it with every fiber of my being.
That cannot be expressed as a mere number.
Is it some sort of infinite regression model?
It's an infinite sum.
This has been the 73rd episode of PolyCast. You've been listening to Daniel Quick.
Yes, you have.
Imran Sidiqui.
Goodbye.
Makahlua.
Bye.
Solver.
Goodbye.
Cartimandua.
Bye.
And Alexander. I am totally getting out of here.
Yeah, I gotta go check for zombies on my lawn.
Yeah, I gotta take care of something. I think I need to feed my couches.
Feed your couches?
Yeah, gotta water my credenza.
Hey now, no dirty talk on this show.
Why not?
Exactly.
And you see, the world did not implode even though you and Imran were on the same episode.
It was awesome.
I think the PolyCast imploded. Especially the bold Joan of Arc. That really gets him excited.
Oh my gosh. I don't take responsibility for anything that comes out of his mouth, just so everybody knows.
Well, he was all over the place. Anyway.
Oh, shit.
That was totally random.
What's going on?
That's my reaction to a power spike here. I have a UPS, but...
Oh, man.
Sometimes you're not supposed to talk. Record date
July 11th, 2009.
Civilization 4, Warlords and Beyond the Sword sound clips, copyright Take-Two Interactive. Copyright 2009 Civilized Communication at civcom.net.